guys, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. If you are interested in making this top, just keep on watching. For this tutorial, we are going to be using a 3.75 millimeter hook, and we're going to be starting it off with a slip knot. Then I'm going to chain up 19 times. This is for a size D. If you are size cup A, you're going to do 12 chains, B 14 chains, C 17 chains, D 19 chains. So do as many chains as you need for your size. Once you're done with that, you're going to chain up an additional 3 times. And then you're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from your hook. So right here. You're going to double crochet from the 4th chain from your hook. And then you're just going to simply continue to make double crochets all along this chain. So I'm almost at the end doing all my double crochets, and I've reached my last chain, and in here I'm going to be doing a double crochet like normal, and then I'm actually going to be placing another double crochet into that same stitch. So into that very last stitch, another double crochet, and then I'm going to be chaining 1. And then I'm going to do 2 more double crochet all into that same stitch. So what you should have into that same stitch is a total of 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a loop at the top, and this is where your bikini is going to be at the center of, and it's all going to make sense after a while. But yeah, it's going to make like a little loop at the top. And so after that, you're going to be doing double crochets in every single stitch on the other side. So just double crochet into the very next stitch right here, and double crochet along that entire row until you've reached the end. And I will meet you at the very end. Once you've reached the end, you're going to chain up 3 times. And then you're going to turn your work over, and you're going to double crochet into that very first stitch. So right where my thumb is right there, that's where you're going to be double crocheting into. This is important because it's going to help the bottom of your bikini curve to the shape of the bralette. So anyways, you're going to be double crocheting your way all the way back down until you've reached the top. Basically, you're just going to double crochet all the way until you get to the top of that loop that we had previously created from the 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So we're going to double crochet until we get all the way to our previously made loop up at the top. So I've double crocheted in every single stitch until I reach the top at my loop, and we are going to be working directly into that loop. Alright, so we're going to be doing 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets all into that same loop like we just did before. Again, you can see we created another loop right there. So you're just going to be double crocheting all the way around, back down this row again like you've been doing, and I will meet you at the very bottom of the row. Here I am at the bottom again, and I'm going to do chain 3, turn my work over, and again double crochet into the very first stitch, which is right here, double crochet into that one. I'm going to be continuing to do double crochets after that until I've reached the top where my loop is, and we're basically going to be doing the same exact thing we've been doing, and I will show you an overview right now. Starting from the bottom, you're going to be doing double crochets all the way until you reach the top of that loop that you previously made, and into that loop you're going to be making another loop by doing 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. And then you're going to be double crocheting in every chain all the way back down till you reach the end where you do chain 3, turn your work around, and repeat this whole process. You're going to be repeating this process and keep on doing as many rows as you need for it to fit around your cup size or be big enough for your liking. So just keep on doing rows until you reach the size that you want. When you're on your last row and everything fits you the way that you want it to, when you are on the last row, you're actually going to stop double crocheting until you've reached the top of the loop because we're going to start working on our straps. Here I am almost finishing up with one side of the last row, and I'm going to continue to do 2 double crochets into that loop. And afterwards, you are going to start chaining your next strap. So go on ahead and chain 110 chains, and I will meet you when you have done 110 chains. Alright, so I've done my 110 chains, and I'm just going to start single crocheting my way all the way back down this long chain. So continue just to single crochet your way all along this chain until you've reached the bottom. And so just crochet along, all along, and I will meet you back down here. You can see I have finished making my single crochet neck strap. And once I reach the bottom, I'm just going to do 2 more double crochets into that top loop. And afterwards, I'm going to just finish off this entire cup by just simply double crocheting my way all the way back down this entire row. Just double crochet your way all the way back down until you reach the end. I'm now done with my first cup and I have fastened off. And what you're going to do is rewind this entire video and make another cup with the strap and all. So just rewind this, do it all over again so that you can have 2 cups, except do not cast off on the second time. Here I've made my second cup and I did not cast off, so now let's get started on attaching these 2 together. So starting off with the one that you did not cast off on, you're going to chain 3 times. With chain 3, you're going to take any bottom corner of the other cup, any bottom corner, and you're going to attach it with a slip stitch. So as you can see right here, I just chose any random bottom corner and I'm attaching it with a slip stitch. And once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and cast off. This is what it should look like so far, and from here on out, we're going to be working on the middle design, working to and from the bralette like so. And let's get started on the middle design part. Starting with a new piece of yarn and a slip knot or a slip stitch, you're going to be reattaching your yarn, and I will show you where. I'm going to be attaching it from the 3rd chain from the bottom of the bralette. So 1, 2, 3, that's where you're going to be reattaching it. Here's a closer view. You're going to be counting up 1, 2, 3 from the bottom, and that's where you're going to attach it with a slip stitch. Now you're going to chain up 2 times. And then you're going to turn your work over. And remember how we did the 3 chains to connect the bralettes? Well, onto the 2nd chain, so 1, 2, onto that 2nd chain, you're going to do a shell stitch. So a shell stitch is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And you're going to be doing that all into that same 2nd stitch. After you've done that, you're going to chain 2, and you're going to count up 3 from the bottom. So 1, right here, 1, 2, 3. You're going to slip stitch into that 3rd chain from the top. Just for a brief overview, I want to show you that we did make a shell stitch between the 2 cups, and that was our first shell stitch that we just made. Starting from where we left off, we are going to slip stitch 3 times. So Here's our first slip stitch, and then our second slip stitch, and then our third one. Now this time you're going to chain up 3 times, so 1, 2, 3. You're going to turn your work over, and now what we're going to be doing is doing another shell stitch right on top of that first shell stitch. So right directly into that loop, you're going to do another shell stitch of 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets. And you're going to chain 3 again. And this time you're going to slip stitch from the third stitch from the initial one. So you can see right here, there's a chain attached to that first chain right here. You're going to count up 3. So 1, 2, 3. So your third stitch from the previous chain, you're going to do a slip stitch. If you are confused, I just want to let you know where my thumb is right here was the one that we did before. And you're just going to count 3 up and slip stitch right there. As you can see, now we have made our second shell stitch. Again, starting off where we left off, you're going to chain up, do 3 slip stitches up yet again. So do 3 slip stitches. And you're going to chain up 3 times. And then you're going to flip your work over and do another shell stitch on top of that previous shell stitch. And then you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to count up 3 from that previous chain right here. So from here, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to attach a slip stitch right there. So a brief overview really quick from where you left off, you're going to do 3 slip stitches up. So 1, 2, 3 slip stitches. Then you're going to chain 3 and then do a shell stitch right on top of that one. And then you're going to chain 3 again, and you're going to attach it with a slip stitch from the third stitch from that previous chain. So 1, 2, 3, that's where you're going to be slip stitching it. And you're going to be doing this until you have 7 of these little shells. Right, so this is what you should have so far. You should have 7 of these little tiny shells, and we are going to get started on the rest of the top. Starting from where you left off, you're again going to do 3 slip stitches in a row. Going to turn your work around and chain up 3 times. And you can see that we made previously 3 chains right here, and you're going to actually do a shell stitch into that second chain. So right there into that second chain from the hook. I mean, I guess you can think about it as the second chain from the hook, or the second chain of the 3 chains, whatever you want. You're going to do a shell stitch. You can see that from doing this, we added 1 more shell right there. And you're just going to continue the same thing. So you're going to chain 3, and you're going to do a shell right on top of that shell right there. And then you're going to chain 3 again, and you're going to create a shell into that second stitch that we made from the previous chain 3. So onto that second stitch from the previous chain 3 space that we made, onto the second stitch, you're going to create another shell. Then you're going to chain up 3 and again attach it with a slip stitch onto the 3rd chain from the previous chain. This is what we did. We have created 2 additional extra shells, 1, 2. So now we have a total of 3, and we're going to continue this 2 more times for 2 more rows. From where you left off, you're going to chain or slip stitch up 3 times again. And then you're going to chain 3, turn your work over, and place a shell stitch right on top of that very first shell stitch. Then you're going to chain 3 and place another shell stitch onto the very next shell stitch. And then chain 3 again and place a shell stitch on the very last shell stitch. Once you're done with that last shell stitch, you're going to do what you normally do and chain 3 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the previous chain. You can see we have 2 rows now of 3 shell stitches. We're going to do 1 more. So again, what you're going to be doing is slip stitching up 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Then chain 3, do a shell stitch, chain 3, do a shell stitch, chain 3, do a shell stitch, chain 3, do a slip stitch from the 3rd chain from that chain. Here I've done my last row of the 3 shell stitch row, and now we're going to be doing something different, and let's get started on finishing the rest of the details. Starting from where you left off, you're going to chain up or slip stitch up 3 times again. And this time you're only going to chain up 2 times, so just 1, 2, and then turn your work over and do a shell stitch into the 2nd chain from the hook. So 1, 2, you're going to do a shell stitch right there. And then you're going to chain up 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to do a shell stitch directly on top of that next shell. And then again, chain 3 times and do a shell stitch directly onto the next shell. And again, do 3 chains and do a shell stitch on top of that next shell. And you're going to chain 3 and do a shell stitch onto that 2nd stitch on that chain 3 line. So onto that 2nd stitch on that chain 3 space right there, you're going to do a shell stitch. Once you've done that, you're going to chain 2 times, 1, 2, and attach it with a slip stitch from the 3rd chain from the previous chain. So right there. As you can see right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shells, and I will teach you how to do the rest. Starting from here, you're going to do the same exact thing, slip stitch 3 times up, and then chain 2, and then do a shell stitch, and then chain 3, and then do a shell stitch, and then chain 3 again, do a shell stitch, chain 3, do a shell stitch, chain 3, do a shell stitch, chain 2, and then slip stitch from the 3rd chain from the previous chain. You're going to turn your work around and repeat the entire process until you have reached as many rows as you want, and I will let you know into the next clip on how many rows I did. Here I did 9 rows of 5 shell stitch rows, and I did this until it went all the way up my neck. So if you want it shorter, do less rows. If you want it longer, do more rows. Anyways, I'm going to do this border on top. This is totally optional, it's up to you, but I just want to do it to make it nice and tidy. I'm going to flip my work over and do a single crochet onto the first one and another single crochet. And basically I don't really have a set pattern for this. I'm literally just doing single crochets on every chain that I see, so I could create a nice single crochet border on the top. So if you want to do a little single crochet border, you can go on ahead and do this all the way until you reach the end. I reached the end of my row, and I'm simply going to slip stitch from the closest chain that I can see. So right there, I'm just going to slip stitch right there, and I'm going to cast off. This is what we have so far, and from now on we're going to be working onto the bottom. So let's get started on the bottom. Starting with the same hook and a slip knot, we are going to attach our yarn into any one of the bottom corners of the bralette. So any bottom corner you want, you can just go ahead and attach your yarn to that corner with a slip knot. Then you're going to chain 1 and start placing random, evenly spaced single crochets along this entire bottom row. So because there are no set stitches, you can just go on ahead and place single crochets anywhere you want, as long as it's evenly spaced throughout the entire bottom row. You will be doing this across the entire bottom of the bra, so all the way, and I will meet you down here. So as you can see, I have finished my single crochet trim, and from here on out I'm going to be working on my back strap. So I created 100 chains, and this is enough to fit around my back. So go on ahead and do however many chains you need to do for it to fit around your back. I did 100. Once you've finished however many chains you need to do, again, you're just going to do single crochets all the way along this long chain until you've reached the end like you normally would. So go on ahead and do a single crochet all the way down the chain, and I will meet you at the end. Once you've single crochet your way all the way back down, you're simply going to single crochet into that very first stitch and continue to single crochet all the way back down the bottom once again. So just keep on single crocheting until you reach the end. So as I said before, you're just going to single crochet all the way back down. So single crochet all the way until the end. And once you've reached the end, you're going to do however many chains you need to do for it to fit around your back. And once you do all the chains that you need to do, you're going to go back down on that chain with single crochets and then attach it with a slip stitch at the very end. This is what the finished results should look like. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.